Welcome to our channel. Today, we are exploring the most valuable and rare Washington quarter dollar coins. These coins are not just money, they are historic treasures sought by collectors worldwide. From rare dates and mint marks to unique errors, some of these quarters are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Stay tuned as we uncover the most prized Washington quarters and what makes them so incredibly valuable. First up, the 1995 Washington quarter dollar with a large date and no mint mark in fully rusty condition stands as one of the most unusual and extraordinary coins in the history of modern United States coinage. At first glance, many would not expect a quarter from the 1990s to carry such a high level of interest or collector value, but the story behind this specific coin makes it both historically important and incredibly rare. The lack of a mint mark identifies this piece as having been struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which in 1995 produced millions of quarters as part of the regular circulation coinage. Yet among those many pieces, certain examples have drawn enormous collector demand due to their striking features, unusual conditions, and remarkable survival. This quarter in rusty condition has managed to climb to a value surpassing $400,000, showing that rarity and demand can elevate even modern coins to legendary levels. The obverse of the coin continues the traditional design of the Washington quarter, first introduced in 1930 to honor the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The portrait of Washington was created by John Flanagan and has remained one of the most familiar images in American coinage. Washington faces left with detailed features in his hair tied back in a queue. Above his head is the motto "In God We Trust," while liberty is boldly struck across the upper edge of the coin. The date 1995 appears prominently at the bottom. On this particular quarter, the large date variety makes the numerals stand out more clearly and distinctly compared to smaller date issues. Despite the surface being fully rusty, the date remains identifiable, which is critical for collectors. On the reverse, the design features the heraldic eagle, with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows and an olive branch beneath it. Above the eagle is the inscription "United States of America," with the pluribus unum placed between the wings. Below is the denomination quarter dollar. The reverse design is simple yet powerful, representing both the strength and peace of the nation. On this rusty coin, much of the detail has softened due to corrosion, yet the eagle's outline and inscriptions can still be traced, preserving the identity of the design even under such wear. The historical context of the 1995 quarter is what gives it an added layer of significance. By the mid-1990s, the United States Mint was preparing to end the long-running eagle reverse design in favor of the new 50-state quarters program, which would begin in 1999 and become one of the most popular coin series in American history. The 1995 issue therefore represents one of the final years of the classic Washington quarter before the Great Transition. Collectors often look back at these final pre-statehood issues with added interest, knowing they marked the closing chapter of a design era. The mintage of 1995 quarters without a mint mark was massive, as the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of coins for circulation. Normally, such high mintages would make the coin common and of little numismatic value. However, collectors know that within large mintages, certain anomalies and unusual pieces survive. In this case, the large date variety, combined with the fully rusty condition that has nonetheless preserved identifying details, creates a one-of-a-kind rarity. It is not just the survival of the coin, but the uniqueness of its appearance that draws collectors willing to pay extreme amounts to add it to their collections. Another factor contributing to its immense value is the fascination collectors have with unusual conditions. Rust is rarely associated with coins made after the 1960s, as clad compositions were designed to resist corrosion far better than earlier silver or copper-based coins. Yet this coin shows complete rusting, which indicates unusual storage conditions or environmental exposure. Instead of being dismissed, this has made the coin more desirable, as it represents an extraordinary example of how even modern coinage can take on unexpected characteristics. Collectors appreciate that such a coin tells a story not only of its original production, but also of its survival through harsh conditions. Error collecting also plays into the appeal of this coin. While not an error in the traditional sense of being struck or produced from the wrong planchette, the coin's condition and the large date variety make it stand apart as a unique collectible. Many collectors enjoy acquiring coins that break from the ordinary, and this piece represents exactly that. It is a quarter that should have been considered common, but has become one of the most talked about rarities of its type. Market values for such rare modern coins have shocked the numismatic world in recent years, while earlier Washington quarters from the 1930s or silver issues of the mid-20th century are well known for their collectability. Few expected a 1995 clad quarter to achieve extraordinary sums. Yet this coin, with its distinctive features and history, has been valued at more than $400,000. Its rarity, its symbolic position as part of the final era before the state quarters, and its strange, fully rusty condition combined to create an irresistible appeal. Collectors are fascinated by the 1995 Washington quarter with large date and no mint mark because it challenges assumptions about what makes a coin valuable. It is proof that even in an age of mass production, rare and unusual examples can emerge. This coin speaks to the larger truth of numismatics, which is that every coin carries a story, and sometimes those stories are so unique that the market assigns values far beyond what anyone could imagine. In conclusion, the 1995 Washington $quarter large date, without mint mark in fully rusty condition, has achieved a legendary status few modern coins ever reach. It combines history, rarity, condition, and collector demand into a single piece that transcends its everyday origins. With a collector value of more than $400,000, it represents how even the most ordinary coins can, under the right circumstances, become treasures of immense worth. For collectors and enthusiasts, it is a reminder that no coin should ever be overlooked because hidden among the common are pieces that tell extraordinary stories and command values that rival the greatest rarities in American numismatic history. Next up we have the 1990 Washington $quarter with a large date and the mint mark in dirty and black shaded condition is one of those coins that at first might not draw attention to the average person but has developed a reputation among collectors as a highly intriguing and extraordinarily valuable rarity. Struck at the Denver Mint, as indicated by the D mint mark, this coin represents part of the long-running Washington quarter series that began in 1932 and continued through several decades before major changes were introduced at the end of the 1990s. While millions of 1990 Denver quarters were produced and circulated, certain examples stand apart due to unique features, conditions, and the sheer fascination collectors have for modern rarities. This specific coin in its dirty and black shaded condition has achieved a collector value that exceeds $500,000, proving that even coins from the relatively recent past can capture extraordinary interest in the numismatic market. The obverse design of the coin continues the traditional portrait of George Washington by John Flanagan. Washington is shown facing left, with sharp detail in his hair tied back in a colonial-style ribbon. Above his portrait is the word liberty, and to the left of his chin is the national motto "In God We Trust." The date 1990 appears clearly below Washington's neck on this coin. The large date variety makes the numerals especially prominent and easy to identify, which adds a special distinction compared to normal issues. Despite the coin's dirty and black shaded surfaces, the bold date and design remain clear, allowing it to be identified and recognized even under its unusual condition. On the reverse, the eagle design remains as the central focus, with its wings spread wide and perched on a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and defense, while an olive branch rests below as a symbol of peace. Above the eagle are the inscriptions United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, and below is the denomination $quarter. This design had been the standard for Washington quarters since 1932, and the 1990 issue was part of the final decade before the Eagle reverse was retired in favor of the 50 state quarters program. The reverse on this coin also shows the effects of its condition, as the black shading dulls much of the luster and sharpness, yet collectors see this as part of its unique character. The historical context of the 1990 quarter adds to its appeal. This was a time of transition for American coinage, as the mint was preparing for major design shifts and new programs that would reshape public interest in collecting. The 1990 Denver quarters marked one of the final periods where the Washington quarter carried its original design without commemorative variations. Collectors often prize coins from these years as part of the last chapter for the enormous wave of popularity brought by the statehood quarters. Mintage numbers for the 1990 quarter were very high, with hundreds of millions produced for circulation. Under normal circumstances, this makes the coin extremely common and of little numismatic value. However, this specific example, with a large date and unusual dirty black shaded condition, transforms it into something entirely different. The coin's appearance is not the result of a typical strike error, but rather a rare survival that collectors now prize for its distinctiveness. The contrast of a coin that should have been ordinary now achieving extreme rarity creates an irresistible allure in the market. Collectors are also drawn to the unusual surface condition. While many coins are tarnished or worn, this quarter displays a combination of dirty and black shading across its surfaces, creating an appearance unlike most circulated examples. Such coins often tell unique stories of how they were stored, handled, or exposed to environmental conditions. Rather than diminishing its value, this has made the coin stand out, proving that unusual conditions can sometimes elevate a coin's desirability when paired with the right features. In the world of numismatics, modern era coins and condition, rarities are becoming increasingly sought after. While early silver quarters command attention for their scarcity, collectors are realizing that certain clad quarters from the late 20th century can achieve similar levels of demand when rare varieties or unique conditions are involved. This 1990 large date example is one of those pieces that has been elevated far above its face value, commanding a market price that now exceeds $500,000. The coin also highlights an important truth about collecting, which is that not all valuable coins are from the distant past. Even a quarter from just a few decades ago can be worth a fortune if it is rare, unusual, or carries features that separate it from the millions of others struck in the same year. For collectors, owning such a coin means holding onto a piece of modern history that represents the unexpected treasures hiding in everyday change. What makes this coin especially fascinating is that it combines historical context, a recognizable design, and an extraordinary surface condition into a single piece. Collectors look at it as both a symbol of the closing era of the Eagle reverse and as proof that the numismatic market continues to evolve, finding new treasures in places once overlooked. In conclusion, the 1990 Washington quarter dollar with a large date and mint mark in dirty and black shaded condition is one of the most surprising and valuable modern rarities in American coinage. Its appeal lies not only in its connection to the long history of the Washington quarter, but also in the way its unique features and condition have elevated it into a six-figure treasure. With a collector value surpassing $500,000, it demonstrates that even coins once thought to be common can rise to incredible levels of importance when rarity, condition, and collector demand align. This quarter is a reminder to collectors that treasures are still hidden in plain sight, and sometimes the most ordinary coins can hold the most extraordinary stories. Next up we have the 1968 Washington quarter dollar with a large date and no mint mark in scratches and some rusty condition stands today as one of the most surprising and valuable rarities in American coinage. While to the casual observer it may look like a heavily used and ordinary quarter, to collectors it represents an unusual and highly desirable find, commanding a value far beyond face value. This particular example, despite its scratches and rust, has earned a collector value exceeding $450,000. making it one of the most expensive Washington quarters ever discussed in the numismatic world. Its story is tied to a fascinating chapter in U.S. coinage history and demonstrates how certain details can turn a seemingly common piece into an exceptional treasure. The obverse of the coin features the well-known portrait of George Washington, designed by John Flanagan, a design that had been in place since 1932. Washington is shown in left-facing profile, his hair tied back in a colonial ribbon, conveying the strength and leadership that made him an enduring symbol for the nation. Above his head is the word liberty, and to the left is the motto "In God We Trust." The date 1968 appears prominently below the portrait, and on this example, the large date variety is especially noticeable with its bold numerals. The lack of a mint mark indicates that the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time did not use mint marks for quarters. Even though this coin shows scratches and areas of rust, the large date remains easily visible, allowing collectors to identify its distinct feature. The reverse of the coin continues with the traditional eagle design, a powerful national emblem, used on Washington quarters until the 1999 statehood series. The eagle is shown with wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows, symbolizing strength and defense, with an olive branch below representing peace. Around the eagle are the inscriptions, United States of America and E Pluribus Unum, with the denomination quarter dollar below. On this 1968 example, the scratches across the surface and the traces of rust have altered its natural look, but for collectors, these flaws are not seen as disqualifying. Instead, they make this coin unique, separating it from millions of other quarters struck that same year. The historical background of the 1968 quarter adds to its importance. The mid to late 1960s was a turbulent period in U.S. coinage. Just a few years earlier, in 1965, the mint had removed silver from circulating quarters due to rising silver prices, introducing the copper-nickel-clad composition. By 1968, the nation had fully adjusted to this new coinage, though many collectors lamented the loss of silver. Interestingly, the year 1968 was also the first time the mint resumed placing mint marks on coins after a short removal period, although the Philadelphia Mint still omitted its mark. This makes the no mint mark 1968 quarters historically notable. Collectors recognize them representatives of the changing policies and transitions within the U.S. Mint at the time. Mintage numbers for the 1968 Philadelphia quarters were very large, with well over 200 million pieces struck. Under normal conditions, such a high mintage would mean that the coin is extremely common and worth only face value. However, the large date variety and the unusual condition of this specific coin, with its scratches and rust, have set it apart in the eyes of collectors. Rather than detracting from its value, the imperfections have given it a distinct personality, telling a story of circulation, survival, and preservation against the odds. In numismatics, sometimes rarity is not just about low mintage but about unique features and extraordinary collector demand. The collector market has increasingly embraced unusual examples like this one, especially as interest in modern quarters grows. While early silver Washington quarters and key dates from the 1930s and 1940s have long been prized, more recent issues are now being reevaluated for their rarity and historical significance. A 1968 quarter with such an unusual combination of features has become a highlight, demonstrating how coins from the clad era can achieve staggering values when the right circumstances are present. The scratches and rust on this coin might make some believe it should be dismissed as damaged, but the opposite has happened in the collecting world. Collectors see it as a unique artifact, a coin that carries both the design of Washington's enduring portrait and the markings of decades of history. This visual uniqueness has transformed it into a one-of-a-kind treasure. Combined with the large date feature and the lack of the mint mark, it has become a centerpiece in discussions of rare Washington quarters. In terms of market value, this 1968 large date quarter, without mint mark in scratch and rusty condition, has been reported at values surpassing $450,000. This staggering price reflects both its rarity and the passion collectors have for owning something that no one else can easily find. It is a reminder that numismatics is not just about pristine coins in perfect condition, but also about the stories coins carry with them, the errors or varieties they display, and the history they represent. In conclusion, the 1968 Washington quarter dollar with large date and no mint mark in scratched and rusty condition stands as one of the most extraordinary rarities of modern American coinage. Despite its outward flaws, it has risen to a status of extreme value, driven by its historical context, unique appearance, and collector demand. With a value over $450,000, it proves once again that treasures can be found in unexpected places, and that even a coin as common as a Washington quarter can achieve legendary status when the right mix of rarity and history is present. This coin is a true example of how collectors find beauty and worth in the rarest and most unusual details. Next up we have the 1996 Washington quarter dollar with a large date and mint mark in circulated condition with some rust on the backside is a remarkable example of how even a coin from the modern clad era can become an object of intense fascination and commanding value in the numismatic market. At first glance, most people would think of a 1996 quarter as a common pocket change piece, but this particular variety, with its large date feature, its Denver mint origin, and its unusual circulated and rusty backside condition has elevated it far above ordinary status. Collectors have come to regard it as one of the rarest modern Washington quarters, with a value exceeding $480,000, a figure that reflects both its scarcity and the powerful interest collectors place in these unique survivors. The obverse of the coin bears the classic design by John Flanagan that had defined the Washington quarter series since 1932. Washington is shown in profile, facing left, with his hair tied back in a colonial style. Above his portrait is the word Liberty, to the left is the motto In God We Trust, and below his neck is the date 1996. On this coin, the large date feature is especially striking, with the numerals appearing bold and clear compared to standard strikes. The D-mint mark, indicating it was struck at the Denver Mint, is also clearly visible to the right of Washington's ponytail. Despite the coin's circulated surfaces, scratches, and wear from decades of use, the design elements remain legible, giving collectors the confidence to identify its distinctive characteristics. The reverse of the coin continues with the traditional eagle design that had been in place for decades. The eagle is perched on a bundle of arrows, with wings spread wide in a pose of strength, while an olive branch below symbolizes peace. The inscriptions United States of America and E Pluribus Unum appear above, and the denomination quarter dollar appears below. What makes this specific piece unusual and memorable is the rust that has formed on the backside of the coin. Rather than diminishing its appeal, the rust has created an appearance that collectors consider unique, giving the coin an individual story of how it has aged, circulated, and survived in less than ideal conditions. Historically, the year 1996 is important because it came just before a massive shift in the Washington quarter series. 3 years later, in 1999, the U.S. Mint would introduce the 50 State Quarters program, a series that revolutionized modern coin collecting and brought millions of new people into the hobby. The 1996 quarter represents one of the final years of the traditional eagle reverse, making it part of the closing chapter of an era. For collectors, this transitional context adds to the coin's importance, especially for those seeking pieces that symbolize the end of one design era and the anticipation of another. The mintage of 1996 quarters was extremely high, with hundreds of millions struck and released into circulation. Under normal circumstances, this would make the coin nearly worthless beyond face value. However, numismatics often rewards unique examples, and in this case, the large date variety, the circulated surfaces, and the unusual rusty backside have transformed this particular quarter into a prized rarity. What makes it extraordinary is not scarcity of production, but rarity of survival in such a distinct form, which collectors often describe as one of a kind. Collectors are especially intrigued by the contrast between the common and the rare. The 19960 quarter is a coin millions of people have handled in daily life, yet this specific version, with its unusual features and condition, has been elevated into the realm of elite collectibles. The scratches, wear, and rust tell a story that most pristine, uncirculated coins cannot. It is evidence of a life spent in circulation before being plucked out and recognized as a rare treasure. The numismatic market has shown a growing appetite for modern rarities, and this 19960 large date quarter fits that demand perfectly. While collectors have traditionally focused on early silver quarters or classic key dates, more and more attention is being paid to coins from the clad era, especially those with unique varieties or appearances. Auction records show that such coins can achieve staggering prices when the right combination of rarity and demand comes together. This particular quarter, valued at over $480,000, stands as proof of how collectors are rethinking the importance of modern issues. For new and seasoned collectors alike, this coin offers a lesson in keeping an eye on the details. At first glance, it might look like an ordinary circulated coin worth only 25 cents, but its specific features, the large date, the Denver mint mark, and the rusted backside set it apart in ways that few other coins can match. It serves as a reminder that even coins from recent decades can hide extraordinary secrets that only careful attention will reveal. In conclusion, the 1996 Washington quarter dollar with large date and the mint mark in circulated condition with rust on the backside is a fascinating rarity that has become one of the most valuable quarters of the modern era. Its blend of design history, unusual condition, and collector demand has elevated it to a level few would expect from a coin struck in such high numbers. With a collector value surpassing $480,000, it demonstrates that treasures are not limited to centuries-old coins, but can also be found in the most unexpected places, even in modern pocket change. This coin stands as a symbol of the surprises that numismatics continues to deliver and the excitement that drives collectors to search for the rarest and most extraordinary finds. Next up we have the 1999 Georgia State quarter dollar with a large date and the mint mark in dirty and rusty condition is one of the most fascinating modern issues that has unexpectedly risen to an extraordinary level of collector value. While most people think of state quarters as common souvenirs from pocket change, this particular Georgia quarter struck at the Denver Mint has developed a reputation for being one of the most expensive pieces of its entire series. With a collector value surpassing $520,000, this coin represents how even modern commemoratives can become rare treasures when unusual conditions and strong collector demand come together. The obverse of the coin carries the familiar portrait of George Washington designed by John Flanagan, a design that had been used on Washington quarters since 1932. Washington faces left, his profile strong and easily recognizable as the founding father of the nation. Above his portrait is the word liberty, to the left is the motto "In God We Trust," and below is the date 1999, marking the very first year of the state quarters program. To the right of Washington's ponytail is the D Mint mark, showing that this piece was struck at the Denver Mint. The large date is one of the features that makes this coin so noticeable, with the bold numerals clearly visible despite the dirty and rusty surfaces. The reverse design is what makes the Georgia State quarter so distinctive and beloved. At the center is an outline of the state of Georgia with a cluster of peaches, the fruit symbolizing the state's nickname as the Peach State. Surrounding the outline are live oak sprigs, representing Georgia's official state tree. Across the center of the design is a banner with the motto "Wisdom, Justice, Moderation," 3 words taken from the state's constitution. Around the design are the inscriptions Georgia, 1788, marking the year of statehood, and 1999, the year of issue. The denomination quarter dollar appears below. On this particular example, the reverse shows clear signs of rust and dirt, which obscure some of the details but give the coin a character unlike most other state quarters that collectors have encountered. The historical background of this coin is also part of its appeal. The State Quarters program, which began in 1999, was one of the most popular coin programs in U.S. mint history. It featured 5 new designs each year, honoring all 50 states in the order they entered the Union. The Georgia quarter was one of the very first in the series, making it especially important to collectors who wanted to own the earliest examples from the program that sparked a massive revival in coin collecting. Millions of people who had never collected coins before began saving state quarters, and the Georgia issue holds a special place in that story as one of the initial releases. Mintage numbers for the 1999D Georgia state quarter were extremely high, with hundreds of millions struck. On the surface, that would suggest the coin should have little to no collector value beyond face value. However, as is often the case in numismatics, unusual examples can completely change the narrative. This specific coin, with its large date, Denver mint mark, and dirty and rusty condition, has become an exception to the rule. Rather than being dismissed as damaged, collectors view it as a unique survivor, one that tells a story about circulation, exposure to the elements, and the way coins age differently depending on their environment. What makes this coin even more fascinating is the timing of its release. The Georgia quarter was part of the first wave of state quarters released in 1999, alongside Delaware, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and New Jersey. Collectors often prize coins from this year because they represent the beginning of a program that eventually became the most collected coin series in U.S. history. Owning a Georgia state quarter with unusual features and unique condition feels like holding a piece of the spark that ignited one of the largest collecting movements the country had ever seen. The collector market has embraced this Georgia quarter as an extraordinary rarity, driving its value far beyond expectations. While most examples of the coin remain worth only 25 cents, this specific version has climbed to over $520,000 in collector value. That kind of figure speaks not only to its rarity, but also to the intense interest that collectors have in owning a one-of-a-kind coin from the beginning of the state quarters era. Collectors often point out that the scratches, dirt, and rust on the coin's surfaces do not detract from its value, but instead enhance its uniqueness. In numismatics, coins with unusual appearances sometimes become even more desirable as they stand apart from millions of others that look almost identical. This Georgia quarter has become one such coin, a piece that tells its own story and cannot be duplicated. In conclusion, the 1999 Georgia state quarter dollar with large date and the mint mark in dirty and rusty condition is one of the most remarkable rarities of the modern U.S. coinage era. It combines the historical significance of being among the first state quarters, the distinctive design celebrating Georgia's culture and heritage, and the unusual surfaces that give it unique character. With a collector value exceeding $520,000, it stands as proof that even modern coins struck in massive numbers can achieve legendary status when rarity, condition, and collector demand align. This coin is a true modern treasure and a symbol of how the excitement of coin collecting continues to thrive well into the present day.